Hi, today we're going to do a very simple acrylic painting that you can do with just 3 colors. These make great gifts for your family during the holidays. This is part of my 12 days of painting, so let's get started. The first thing we're going to do is put out our colors. I'm using golden fluids. All of this is in your description. I'm just using these 3 colors: quinacridone magenta, benzimidazzolone yellow, you could also use Hansa yellow, and phthalo blue. I'm also going to be using some titanium white and some glazing liquid to keep things wet. Okay, let's put our colors out. A little phthalo blue. Phthalo blue is really strong, so you don't need a lot of it. Benzimidazzolone yellow or Hansa yellow. Quinacridone magenta, titanium white. You'll want a fair amount of titanium white. We're going to use quite a bit of it. And glazing liquid. This will keep your paint wet and workable for a good long time. I know it looks a lot like titanium white, but it is transparent. Okay, today we're going to be doing a little seascape. So let's start off with a warm sky, and I am going to use a number 10 round, and we're also later going to be using a number 6 round. Everything's in your description. All the materials that I'm using are in your description. So I'm just going to dab my paint in the water and then wipe it off. Not a lot of water. I'm going to pick up some Hansa yellow or benzimidazzolone yellow, glazing liquid. I want it to be nice and juicy. Just lay that down. Get a little quin magenta. We're going to have a little sunset thing going on. A little more glazing liquid. And bring it down about, let's go halfway. Just blend that. Wipe my brush a little bit, go into the titanium white, and come right back into that wet paint and just let it blend. Titanium white. Get that nice kind of rosy sky going on there. Okay, looking good. Make sure I get the edges. Okay, wipe my brush, no water on my brush. Now I'm going to create some hills and background. So I'm going to go into my phthalo blue, and I already have a little red orange on my brush. So that's going to create a kind of a muted color. That's going to get into that blue and kind of mute it. Let's mute it a little more. A little bit of that quin magenta there. Little Hansa yellow. Oh, that's nice. That's good. I like that. I'm going to put a little bit of white into it. There we go. Looks good. And I'm just going to put a little suggestion of these hills right here. Let's make that one kind of tall. And see, I'm picking up a little bit of that orangey background color, and that is just fine because it will mute these colors. Let's get a little more blue. It'll mute these colors, and that's going to be just fine. So we've got a couple of hill shapes going. Now we're going to have a cove here, sort of an ocean cove. So I'm just going to take my paintbrush and kind of do this kind of thing, so to kind of have an idea of where my ocean is going to be and where my flowers are going to be. So I'm going back into my blue and a little bit of yellow. I want this a little bit greener. It was a little bit too blue. Now I want that hill in the background to be kind of more distant. So I'm not going to do anything to it. It looks like it's in the background, and that's just fine. But I do want that foreground hill to be a little bit greener. Take that blue, Oop, got a little heavy on the blue there. Just wipe off my brush. And the nice thing about this is it just blends. While the paint is wet, you can just do this really nice blending with your brush. So if you look at what I'm doing here on the side, I'm just going to grab a little bit of that yellow. And see, I'm just letting that brush roll. Let the brush do the work, okay? Let it blend. All right, that's looking pretty good. Now I want the ocean and the land here to butt up together. So I'm going to my ocean. I want it to be mostly blue-green. My brush already has blue-green on it, but I'm going to go into the titanium white and I'm going to lay this down with mostly titanium white, like that. Wipe off my brush. So I kind of get that feeling of that blue-green water. Just keep going back into the titanium white and see how I'm going right over the edge of where my land is going to be. You don't want things to butt up to each other because then they'll look like they're cut out of cardboard. Now I'm putting down a fair amount of titanium white. Looks like I got a big drop of titanium white right there. Let me just take my finger and get rid of that. So I've got a lot of titanium white here in my water. And just so my water looks like it's active, I'm going to grab a tiny bit of Quin Magenta and just almost take all of it off my brush. Just almost none on my brush, actually, just wipe it off. And just put a little bit of that Quin Magenta in the water. Don't overdo it. See, that's a little bit too strong. So I'll just wipe my brush on the paper towel, come back to the titanium white, and just blend it in. There you go. Just blend it in so that water has a little bit of movement. It doesn't look too flat. Let's add a little bit more blue to the water. Now be careful with that phthalo blue. It is like kryptonite. It is so strong. So I've got a little bit on my brush, go back into the titanium white. Let's come in here and just let that roll. Take a look here. When I'm doing that, remember, I'm just doing this thing with my brush to kind of roll it, you know, just so it looks a little bit of wave action there, so it doesn't look too static. Okay. Get those edges. All right. Wipe my brush, wipe it off really well. Make sure I don't have anything on my brush that's too wet. Let's wipe it. I'm not going in the water. Try to stay out of the water because if I bring water to this right now, it's going to make a huge mess. Now I do want some sky clouds up here. So I'm going to go back into the titanium white with my dirty brush and I'm just going to just lay in some big chunks of titanium white. Just lay them in. They're going to blend. That's okay. That's all right. Even if you come down over your mountains, it's not going to hurt anything. You can always come back and touch them up later. But I just wanted some action in that sky. You know what I mean? Just a little bit of action there. So I'm just going sideways with my brush like that. Wipe it. Okay, that looks pretty good. I'm going to come down here. I know it's going to touch the top of my mountains. That's okay. I'll come back and touch them up. Okay, just wanted some little action there. Let's go back into the blue-green that we had going. Let's touch up our mountain. Get this guy right here. Wipe my brush. Looks like I got a little bit of green in the sky right there for whatever reason. There, that's fine. Now I have something else we're going to do to the sky, but it has to dry a little bit. So we're going to leave it like that for a minute. Our water's looking pretty good. Our hills look pretty good. Let's start on some really fun type floral stuff here. So I'm going to go into my phthalo blue, Hansa yellow. I'm going to make a green. Doesn't matter if it's dark or light. It's just a base color. Let's put a little white into it. Lay that down here. Just be very liberal with that. Lay that down. You don't have to worry about the edge of that cove because we're going to cover it with flowers and whatnot. So you don't have to worry about the edge of that cove. Let's get a little bit more here. Okay, just a base color. Doesn't matter really what it looks like, believe it or not, because mostly it's going to be covered. All right, wiping my brush again. Now I'm going to come back with a kind of a blue-green. Let's get that green a little bluer. Now let's start having some fun with some floral type stuff here. So I'm going to start at the top and pull down. I want to show you that on the side camera. Start at the top and pull down. Top, pull down. And if you don't have enough contrast, go back into the phthalo and make it darker. Let's get that titanium white off my brush. Phthalo, straight into the phthalo. Start at the top and pull down, like so. Just give yourself those leaf-like shapes. That's all you really need. Just a few of those. You can grab a little of that yellow if you want to make a nice bright green on top of that. Let's have a little bit more variation there. Let's get a little more yellow. We can have some nice, whoops, got a little bit too much white there, didn't I? Just go back into the Hansa. Okay. Looking good, looking good. All right, see how those strokes just kind of make that look like there's growth right there near that cove. You don't have to worry about the edge of the cove at all. Wiping my brush. Now I'm going to go to a square brush. This is a smaller square brush, and we're going to use the tip of it. So let's take Quin Magenta, titanium white, and we're going to make a bright pink. Okay, bright pink. Now I'm going to come straight down with that. So I'm going to put you on the side view here and watch what I'm doing. I'm just coming straight down, reload, straight down. Pat, pat, pat. That's all you got to do. Nothing fancy. You don't have to paint petals or butterflies or anything like that. Just come straight down like that, okay? All right, do a few in pink. We made a few in pink. Let's have one over here. Little titanium white. Now wipe your brush. Let's have some straight up white with your square brush. We'll have a few white flower things. Make sure you have enough paint on your brush. That's a big blob right there. We'll fix that in a minute. Just make sure you have enough paint on your brush so that they look like little blossoms, that's all. And anything that's out over here over the cove, you're going to need a little more contrast, so maybe go to your darker Quin Magenta. Wipe your brush. Let's do a little bit more Quin Magenta, straight up Quin Magenta with no white in it. That's going to be a little darker. A few of those, interspersed. That's a good word, interspersed. All right. And this white blob that I made here, let's break that with a little Quin Magenta. There, not so bad now. Okay, that is a 14-minute painting. I want to do a little something up here in the sky. I think it is dry enough. So I'm going to wash my brush. Wipe it on the paper towel, make sure it's nice and dry. And then I'm going to grab a little a little phthalo blue and a lot of titanium white. Now I'm going to take, let's make that a little lighter. Let's have more titanium white. There, that's better. That's more like it, a really light blue. And I'm going to come in here and give my sky, make sure you're dry, your painting is dry before you do this, because if you put blue down on top of that pink and orange, you're going to get mud. So make sure you've got a dry background. So I'm just going to put a little blue in there, a little blue sky. Let's have a little more titanium white. And a little bit more titanium white. So we want some of that sunset color to show through, but we don't want just the sunset color. So we want a little bit of blue sky as well, just to make it look really active, because sometimes out of the ocean, it looks really, really, really active. Okay. Now I think, finally, I'm going to come back with a little bit more of that Quin Magenta and a tiny bit of titanium white and a tiny bit of my Hansa. And I want a kind of dramatic sky. I'm going to need a little more titanium white for this, so let's put a little out. I want a kind of a dramatic sky right there at the edge of those hills. So I'm going to take this. I know I'm going to have to come back and touch up my hills, because I'm picking up a little bit of that green, but that's all right. I'll come back and I'll touch up my hills a little bit. Wipe my brush. Little Quin Magenta. I want a kind of dramatic thing at the top of those hills. Now, if you don't want to do this part on your sky, just leave it with the rosy background that we did earlier. You don't absolutely have to do the dramatic sky. You don't have to. Okay. A little bit more down here. Get that really pretty kind of yellow highlight that happens at sunset with the ocean. It's just really pretty. Gonna need a little bit more Hansa yellow. Just following the edge of my mountains there. That's what I wanted, that really pretty yellow edge that they get right around sunset. Let's just go along and do that. There we go. Yeah. So you get a really dramatic sky going there. Pretty dramatic. A little bit more titanium white. Just a little touch of it up here. There we go. Looking good. All right. So I think that does it for our seascape. Our sky is really brilliant, and I really like that. But like I said, you could leave it. If you just want the rosy sky, you could leave it. But look how fun that is right there. So I let this area dry up here, and I decided I wanted to change the sky. So a good way to do that, if it's too wet and you weren't crazy about the way the sky was working. Thought it was getting a little muddy, so I decided to change it. So I'm just taking a paper towel, putting it down on the wet paint and blotting it like that. Now that's dry enough so I can come back and put that yellow down that I really wanted. Put that yellow down with the titanium white and get that great vibrant sky that I was looking for. Because it was just a little muddy. So I thought, let me come back to that. And that just goes to show you that it's always fixable. If you do something and you're not crazy about it, just fix it. Okay, so I really wanted that super yummy sky. So here I am, and just put that yellow down. And see, now I've got that really brilliant sky that I was looking for. I'll put a little bit of titanium white down. Gives me that really brilliant contrast in the sky that I was looking for. And whenever you come up against your mountains, just roll your brush, use your brush on the side, take the contour of those mountains, and that makes it totally doable. Now I have the kind of sky that I really wanted, that brilliant kind of sunset, high contrast sky. All right, that's going to be our seascape. That's just a 20-minute painting. That's how easy that is. So keep joining me for the 12 days of painting, where you can make a painting for your family, a gift. You can make it for yourself, and it doesn't take very long, and you only use 3 colors. All right? Thanks for joining me, and remember what I always say, keep painting.